Hey everybody, my name is Erin. Welcome back to my channel. We're doing a book tag and one I'm really excited about because it is the Folklore Book Tag, all dedicated to the wonderful new album from Taylor Swift, which I have been loving. It's just chill enough for what I need right now in my life. I'm going to link the original creator down below. I think I've seen one or two different versions of this one. So I'll also put the questions that I'm answering down below if you'd like to do this tag as well. So there are 16 questions, one for each track on the new album. The first song is The One. And for this song, we are going to talk about a love triangle that did not go the way we wanted it to. So I have not finished this series, but I've heard enough about it to know that the people I ship, I think one of them doesn't even end up in the last book. So minor spoiler warning, but I'm pretty sure everybody has read this. Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas. I really love Selena and Kale, and I wanted them to be together. The second book was great. And then the third book happened, and from what I know, it doesn't turn around to end up the way I would want it to. Then we have Cardigan, which is one of her most popular songs at the moment, and that is your favorite YA couple. For this song, I chose Reboot by Amy Tintera. In this book, when kids die, there's a chance that they could come back to life, and they call that rebooting. And the longer it takes you to come back to life, you have less emotions, you're just more unfeeling and robotic, and so you have the two characters in this couple. One is Ren, who had the highest time from a comeback in her facility. So most people consider her the most robotic of them all. And she's kind of taken that to heart and doesn't feel like she could ever really feel human again. And then they get a new group of recruits, and one of them is Callum, who was only dead for about 12 minutes or something like that, which is basically nothing. They consider him still human. And Callum likes Ren and kind of shows her throughout the journey that she is human, she's capable of feeling, and that she doesn't have to be the person that they're telling her she has to be. And I just really like that. Next we have Last Great American Dynasty. This is one of my favorite songs on the album right now, although my favorite keeps switching. But for this, we're going to talk about a classic, and I don't really enjoy a lot of the adult classics as much, but kids classics are my jam. And so for this, I chose The Never-Ending Story. It is amazing, and this is one of the first real journey books that I read, and my heart will always belong to this book. After that, we have My Tears Ricochet, and this prompt is the saddest character death. So spoiler warning a little bit, but not really, for The Book Thief by Marcus Zuzak. This is a book about the Holocaust, so the fact that some characters die is kind of something you go in expecting. The narrator in this book, though, is Death, and the way he describes some of the deaths of major characters and how he perceives their aura and their soul is beautiful, and it makes me tear up every time, and I do not tear up very easily. I rarely cry during movies and books, but this book, I've reread it several times and it always gets me. Another kind of spoiler, because I'm picking an older book, so I'm sure you've probably read it and or will not be reading it, but this song is Exile, and the prompt is Heartbreaking Breakup, and I chose Prodigy. So this is a trilogy, and this is the last book in the trilogy, so spoiler warning. The two main characters, June and Day, don't really end up together. There is a little bit of hope, maybe at the end, that they will, but basically June is part of the reason, and again, spoiler warning, that Day's mom got killed. Not really directly her. She didn't know what was happening. She didn't know she was on the bad guy's side, so not really her fault. Definitely not directly her fault. But Day has a hard time getting over that. And even when he moves past it, June can still kind of tell he's never really going to get over it. And so she breaks up with him so that he can move on. And I wanted them to be together. And so that was not something I was okay with. Next up on our list is Mirrorball, and this is all about a character you can relate to. And I struggled with this one. I decided to go out of the box a little bit. And I went with My Side of the Mountain by Jean Craig Head George. The main character, Sam, goes off and lives on his own in the woods. Immediately, I was like, okay, yes, I am going to go live in a tree. It didn't happen, obviously, but I love camping. I love hiking. I worked at summer camps for like 8 years as counselor, and so nature is very relaxing and healing for me. So I relate to this character. Next up on our list is the song 7, and for that we have our favorite middle grade. So I recently started reading some new series, and the one that I immediately thought of was The Mysterious Benedict Society by Trenton Lee Stewart. So this book follows 4 genius kids as they solve crime and puzzles, and I loved it. The kids are all great. The puzzles are fun to try and solve while they're solving it. The action is just enough for a middle grade to really be exciting. And considering how thick it is, the whole story was engaging. There wasn't any point where I was like, all right, let's get a move on. Because you're constantly moving from puzzle to puzzle or mystery to mystery, and it's fun to see if you can solve them before the kids do. So if you haven't picked up this, it's a really good middle grade. The artwork on the cover is one that I love, and I just finished listening to the second book on an audiobook, and it was just as good as the first. Our next song is August. The prompt for this is a doomed relationship that you couldn't help but root for. So I chose Cirque by Madeline Miller. Cirque is the daughter of Apollo, and she's banished to her own little island to live for eternity because she's immortal. And so all of her mortal relationships in that regard are doomed to fail. And you get to see a few of them and just how hard it is for her to let some of those mortal lives go. And I really just wanted her to find love, but unfortunately, that's not how the story goes. After that, we have Hoax, and this is your favorite conclusion to a series. I have a problem with finishing series, so I have a lot of series that I've loved and started but haven't finished. So I struggled with this one a little bit, and I ended up going with a tribute to my channel's name, and that is Sabriel by Garth Nix. So this one is a trilogy. A Portion is the last book, and I truly felt like all 3 of these books held their own. There wasn't really a dip in any of them. The ending of this series was both surprising but also satisfying. Everything was kind of tied up, and I remember just really being in love with all 3 of the books, which doesn't happen very often with a series. I feel like there's one book that just doesn't quite hold up a lot of time, and this wasn't the case. You can tell my book is well loved. Poor little broken spine. But if you have not read Sabriel by Garth Nix, please do. I named my channel after it because it is so good. Our next song is This Is Me Trying, and this is a popular book that you didn't like. I decided to go with an author more than a book, and that's John Green. I read The Fault in Our Stars, and I really loved it. And then I read 3 of his others, Paper Towns, Looking for Alaska, An Abundance of Catherines. I think I read another one too. And after this book, I just could not get into any of his other books. And I feel like he's a very popular author, and this book was great. But I just can't get into anything else that he's written. Illicit Affair is our next song, and for that we're picking our favorite fantasy trope. And my favorite is a pretty popular one, and that is rivals to lovers or enemies to lovers. So a recommendation for that is Academy 7 by Anne Osterland. In this book, these 2 are kind of competing for the top place in their class in a sci-fi space academy, and they both have very dark pasts that they're trying to hide from each other and from everyone else. And so when they start to stumble on each other's secret, that rivalry becomes even darker, and then as their secrets get exposed, they realize that they have a lot in common and they care for each other. And it was just a really great book. Our next song is Invisible String, and this is to talk about your first OTP. My first OTP comes from Harry Potter. I don't really want to promote this book on my channel, but I'm going to answer this question honestly, and Ron and Hermione was the first ship that I can ever remember. When they finally kissed in book 7, I was like, ah. I don't understand people who ship Harry and Hermione at all, but I think that may be more of a movie thing. I don't know. Anyway, Ron and Hermione forever. Mad Woman is our next song, and that's to talk about our favorite female character. I've really struggled with this because I have so many female characters that I love, but I thought I'd just kind of pick one that stuck out to me from a book that I recently reread, and that is Fire. It's part of the Graceling trilogy, and I'll put the author's name up there too. But Fire is considered a monster. In her world, she has bright, beautiful hair and features, and her father was one of the cruelest rulers because he used his good looks and charm and magic abilities to kind of trick everybody into doing what he wanted. And so Fire is doing her best to be the exact opposite, and she slowly learns to kind of love herself while still using her powers for good. There's a great romance. Fire is a very strong female character who still has moments of weakness, and her strength doesn't come from being a great athlete or a great fighter or very skilled at anything. She just has a beautiful soul and uses her charm and magical abilities to save the day. After that, I have Epiphany, which is another song I've been loving lately, and that is just to share a book that you read during quarantine. And for that, I just finished Every Heart a Doorway by Shauna Maguire. I've heard a lot about this book. I'm sure if you watch BookTube at all, you've seen this book around somewhere. But if you haven't picked it up or weren't quite sure, I definitely recommend it. It's a cute little novella about people who come back from other worlds and how they deal with reality. So there's a school for wayward children who have come back from their magical fantasy lands and don't really want to be part of this reality anymore. So it's just a really cute story. There's a little bit of mystery and intrigue, and it's a novella, so it's super easy to get through. After that, we have Your Favorite Book, Kiss. And again, I really struggle with favorites because it's usually just the best that I've read recently, not necessarily overall favorite. But the first thing that came to mind was Take a Hint, Dani Brown by Talia Hibbett. Zaf and Dani are an amazing couple, and their first kiss was kind of for fake showmance, but you knew they both really wanted it, and it was super juicy and just set off the rest of the book. The last song is Peace, and for this we're supposed to choose our favorite YA contemporary. I don't really read a lot of contemporary, it's not my favorite genre, and most of them that I do are contemporary romance. I did find a book that I reread a lot when I was younger and would happily reread again, and that's The Year of the Secret Assignment. You know me, I don't have a book cover for this one. So, Year of Secret Assignment is by Jacqueline Moriarty. So this is about 3 girls who become pen pals with 3 boys from an all-boys school, and they're all kind of unsure about it, so they all write different wacky letters, and so each chapter is the back and forth between them and their pen pal, who all fall in love with each other. But their letters are really funny. One of them just writes really strange, dreams that she makes up, and one of them starts writing dares, and they just kind of keep getting bigger and bigger. It's those 3 stories, and getting the mix and just the different writing styles is really fun. So that is the folklore tag. I would love for you to do this tag. I'm not going to tag anybody specific, but if you've been enjoying this album lately or just want to do a fun tag, go ahead and check out this one. And also in the comments down below, let me know what your favorite song is. But that is it for me. Thanks for hanging out today, and I'll see y'all later. Bye.